Why knowledge matters.
I think it's the case that in Western societies, no one really knows how to deal with grief. And we're talking about this more today with COVID. We're seeing this around the world that people are experiencing death directly or indirectly, and psychologists will say there should be some grieving process, but we don't know how to do this, and it's an interesting educational issue. So happiness and education, many people talked about that before me, but actually people aren't really discussing this issue of sadness and education. And I think the first thing that I would think of here is that it's a lot for teachers to take on. And I think one of the underlying threads of this book is we tend to be imagining that teachers are like therapists or counselors when we talk about education for well-being. It's a lot for them to take on when you think about the cross-cultural, the political dimensions, and then of course, most of them are supposed to be teaching math or English. They're not supposed to be teaching emotional well-being in the first place. So this is a lot for teachers to take on, but my main point here is that these feelings are rational and healthy, and they have to be understood as such, and acknowledged as such. So they're not just the opposites of happiness, because I think sometimes they're seen as the opposites. They're not just detrimental to learning and subjects. So if students are dealing with grief because of loss of life, of something like that, the point isn't just stop being unhappy in order to study. And I think teachers in schools do know this, but I think this is something that we're going to have to continue dealing with in the future and dealing with more constructively, as an example of an important feeling that's worth acknowledging in education. And if we don't acknowledge it too, young people can learn the lesson that it must be bad if their teacher's not acknowledging it. So here, I don't think that there needs to be a complicated curriculum or some in-depth counseling or therapy conducted by teachers, but I think it is worth acknowledging what we call negative emotions in education, that they're still there, and it's better to acknowledge them and to let students know that they're okay if they feel them, because it could be really bad if students learn the lesson that it's not okay.
That's why knowledge matters.